Hello and welcome to another one of our chats for our newsletter, and I'm delighted today to have with me Fiona from Millbrook Medical Conferences. Fiona's the managing director, and we're just going to have a little conversation today. But Fiona, do you want to start by just giving us a little bit of an overview as to why we're having this chat and a little bit about you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm, as you say, I'm Fiona McDonald. I'm the Managing Director of Millbrook Medical Conferences, which I set up in 1992, which is obviously 30 years this year. And I first started conference organising when I worked for the NHS as a medical secretary, and that was actually about 40 years ago. While I was on maternity leave in 1992 from the NHS, I was approached by a pharmaceutical company, and they asked me to organise a conference, and that was when I decided to set up Millbrook, with the idea that I'd probably only need to run 2 or 3 conferences a year, but little did I know.
Things come up and grow on you. Oh, well, I look forward to hearing more. I think things have changed so much, haven't they, over the 30 years? I know from my experience in this side of the industry, and that's only 10 years, how much stuff has changed. So, you know, I'm thinking sort of communication, technology and Wi-Fi, changing needs of conferences. And I think, you know, the extension of the life of conferences and the pre and the post, and things just seem to evolve. Do you want to give me your highlights about what you think has changed over that time?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this the other day, and I think the biggest thing for me is probably paper. I remember when we used to go off to conference, 2 or 3 of those big plastic boxes would be full of folders, one for the registrations, one for the venue details, one for faculty. And we kept them for years and years. We kept them to refer back to. So, you know, we would go off to conference with a van full of printed delegate lists, printed badges, spreadsheets, function sheets. And then at the end of the meeting, you were just left with a pile of waste that now we look back on wasn't even, you know, filed away, looked at again, or recycled. It was just waste. And then I thought about technology, of course. It's changing all the time, I know, but I honestly do think over the last 30 years, technology has been huge. When I was at college about 40 years ago, I can remember a teacher saying to me, "Have you ever heard of the word processor?" And at that time, that wasn't even a computer. And at that time we hadn't. And she said, it will do you out of a job. Catering's changed, the venues have changed. Catering was always beige, wasn't it? It was always deep fried. It was always really bad for you. And now it's just, some things are bizarre that the chefs do, but at least there's lots of effort to make it interesting. Sponsorships changed hugely for us over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. A lot of companies have been eaten up by other companies. When I first started, the majority of conferences that we did were sole sponsored conferences. And now we have multiple companies, which, to be honest, I prefer because it reduces risk. But it's a lot easier with one company and one company only. And sometimes we can run a conference and have 30 sponsors. We can run quite small conferences and still have 10 sponsors.
Balancing the needs of all of those stakeholders is quite challenging.
It's really challenging. And also quite often if they're doing sponsorship categories as well, it's quite difficult to ensure that the larger sponsors have got a bigger platform and that actually the delegates and the faculty recognise it without having to be told it. And that's the only way you'll really keep the sponsor happy. So you're juggling everybody, you're trying to keep everybody happy. Compliance for medical conferences has had a huge impact, although, you know, it's not rocket science to work out. It's all about appropriateness. It's about ensuring that we are not we're not actually bribing the delegate or the faculty to come by bringing them to a beautiful spa hotel. And so we work well with that actually now. And I think it's, you know, it actually does make sense. And then we had a big issue some years ago where the Tom's tax came into being. And because we book a lot of travel and a lot of hotels, we had lots of meetings with accountants, and our accountant wasn't specialised in Tom's, so we had to appoint another accountant. So over the last 30 years, and probably more recently over the last 10 years, I've seen a lot of changes in this industry.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? When you sort of start to look at everything sort of in silos, and then you put it all together, and you just think, gosh, that pace of change. And I think really with the pandemic as well, it's sort of given that opportunity, hasn't it, to change up some stuff that maybe hadn't been changed previously.
It's tidied things up, actually, pandemic, bizarrely.
Yeah, and there seems to be that push towards sustainability and EDI as well. So you've got it's a complex issue, isn't it? And trying to balance all of those things. Yeah. And I believe, you know, over that 30 years, you've really managed to retain your clients, haven't you? You've not been moving from one client to the next. You've sort of built the business and sort of retained and grown the business. Yeah. And I believe congratulations are in order, not only for your 30th anniversary, but you've got a Lifetime Achievement Award as well, haven't you?
So you think that's telling me something? trying to say something.
Usually comes at the end of your career, doesn't it?
Exactly. How bizarre. However, do you know what? I did not expect that. And that Lifetime Achievement Award was presented to me from a society, and all the previous award holders have been medics. And it's usually been for the medical research, etc., that they've been involved in. So it was just, first of all, a huge shock, and then it was a bit surreal. And it just showed me that they recognised all the involvement we'd had with medical education, and how much I do genuinely, absolutely love working in this field. I wouldn't move from it at all. It's a great trade to be in.
And it's great, isn't it, that they've recognised that actually, because of the engagement and the research that you facilitate, that actually pushes the boundaries of medical science, doesn't it? But how nice is that, you know, I remember when I first started with ABCO, everybody was saying, we just want to not be known just as logistics people.
I know.
And that really shows it, doesn't it, that you're a professional, you're one of the team, and you're all in it together to make it more.
I do think that's what they were saying, and I think that's, you know, it's really nice. And there was a lovely speech made, and I didn't know they knew half of that about me, which was funny. So, they'd obviously been doing their research.
Nabbled your team, had they?
I think so. No, it's just lovely. And the award had been renamed because we lost a significant cardiologist to COVID in 2020. And he actually wasn't just a colleague that I worked with. He was actually a very, very close friend and lived just down the road from me. So I got the first award with his name on it, which was even more lovely than that. Yeah, and I was able to show his family.
Oh, but you had a few tears when that happened.
No, I did.
Oh, yeah. And I mentioned them nabbling your team, but you've really built that team around you, haven't you? It's sort of, it's not just a family business, is it? That you employ people.
No, in fact, it's only just recently. So my son does work for me, but that's only very recently. It's, you know, it's always been people that I've interviewed and appointed. But, you know, my team are amazing, and they all work very, very closely together. They see each other outside work. They have a fantastic, you know, friendship group. We're all on a big WhatsApp group. And it's a very, very nice environment. And I wish when I'd been their age that, you know, I'd worked in those sorts of that sort of environment. And I don't think I've necessarily done that. I think they've all done it themselves. They support each other. It probably is because I've appointed a type, and they're all pretty similar actually, and it could easily be that. But they're really loyal, really conscientious. They cover each other's backs, and we needed to do that during COVID, that was for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you have to pull together.
Yeah, people were just taking over other people's conferences because we had a massive COVID hit the company just before Christmas, and that was our busiest time. And we had 2 or 3 meetings going on at the same time, luckily all in London. And people were just racing across town, covering each other's conferences. So I'm really lucky. I think, you know, you're at work a very long time each day, and it's really important that you enjoy work. It's always been important to me. I know I've had jobs when I was younger that I didn't like. I just didn't stay. I don't believe in staying in anything that you're not getting the most from. And so, you know, upstairs, I'm downstairs at the moment talking to you, but upstairs there is a great team up there.
Fantastic. And you say you're lucky. I'm sure, I can't remember, my husband had told me that a golfer says, oh, the more he practices, the luckier he gets. It's not actually to do with luck, is it? It's to do with that culture that you've developed, and you know, that sort of camaraderie. And how do you keep people creative? I mean, if you are sort of cloning a type, how do you sort of make?
It's such a good question. We have lots and lots of team briefings, team meetings in the boardroom, and I love creativity. I love to step outside the box. I'd love to do the whole buy one get one free registration. I just don't think the cardiology world or the medical world would get it, but I love all that sort of thing. And, you know, are you doing the best for your patient? Welcome to our meeting and double check, that sort of thing. And we sit and just brainstorm and brainstorm. We do work with a good agency, a really good agency. So we quite often send them a brief that is a total mess, but they sort of get it, and they're really good at turning it into something visual.
Fantastic. And that's it, isn't it, having the expertise around you, but sort of trying to keep ahead of the curve. And I think, you know, you've referred a few times to the fact that you've grown it over the 30 years, and you know, it's an established company, but you're not stopping where you are you either? I think you're looking over the horizon now and thinking about sort of developing the company more. Do you want to explain a little bit?
So when we got into the whole Tom's situation, we set up a logistics company. So we actually do have a logistics company that its only purpose is to assist medics to travel across the world to conferences, and we act as the third party on behalf of the companies, because the medical compliance to take any healthcare professional to another country by airplane and stay in another hotel is so complicated. And there are so many boxes that have to be ticked, and so much, you know, the sponsors can't know who the doctor is, etc. So we're now the third party, and we've set up this company. It's not ever so busy, I have to be honest. There's not a lot of people traveling abroad at the moment. Even now, you know, they're watching the meetings overseas on video, but it keeps it tidy, and it keeps it all in one place, and it's easy to manage. And then we're also setting up a non-medical company, but that's in its infancy at the moment, and that hasn't actually been completely gone through yet, but certainly Dominic's involved in that. But we've evolved. I think there isn't a conference organising company that won't have evolved through the COVID pandemic. So we very much now do as many webinars, and not so many hybrids, but we have done hybrids, and I think hybrids is the way forward. But a lot of webinars and a lot of virtual conferencing, as well as face-to-face.
Yeah, the whole business model has changed a lot, hasn't it?
It certainly has, yeah.
And as we come to the end of our little chat, I just wondered, with your experience in the industry, if you've got any final words of wisdom that you can give to maybe some of those who are early careers out there.
I think I would say train, learn as many skill sets as you can, because it's like you said, we're not logistics people anymore. We're proactive, we're creative. We have to tick all of those boxes. And if you want to set up on your own and you don't want to become part of a company which might have a marketing department, which might have a creative person that works for them, but you want to do all of it, then just learn those skill sets, because that will be required as a PCO now. And I'm not sure that's reflected fully in the university degree courses at the moment still, that actually you're not just sitting there booking bedrooms. In fact, you're doing a lot less of that at the moment. I would say stay positive and upbeat, and remember that smile always when you're on the registration desk. And I would also say, and I think it's the answer to anybody who wants to succeed, keep your head down and work hard, and you will succeed. You absolutely will. I've always believed that.
Yeah, it's that hard work, but brilliant, and obviously perseverance and tenacity as well. But
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think we've all made mistakes. Oh my goodness, I remember putting a comma instead of a decimal point, and that was a big mistake. So we all make mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes and you just brush yourself down and you never do it again.
Yeah, and my son's school, they say it's no such thing as fail, it's first attempt in learning. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that sums it up, doesn't it? We all have
absolutely.
to learn, and if you don't fail, you'll not learn to get to the next stage, will you?
You'll never
so brilliant. Well, you've obviously not done very much failing, and you've obviously done an awful lot of succeeding. So well done, Fiona, and thanks very much for talking to us today.
Lovely to talk to you.